Okay, I would also like to kind of go over a little overview with you, just to cover some things. So on the list, I talked about, oh, I didn't talk about, I bullet pointed the delousing, the gang, the train cars, and then thieves, morals, and the animalistic tendencies. So let me break these down a little bit for you. The delousing, I put that on there because for me, I thought it was like kind of odd. They don't really care about these people enough to feed them, so why are they delousing them? I didn't know if that was just more something that related to them, like it was more specifically for those who were coming in and going straight, getting told to go to the left, which is straight to death. So I did kind of make that connection, but other than that, if it's just a general delousing, I'm not really sure. The Canada gang I wanted to talk about because I found that was interesting. That was not something that I had heard of before, was the different types of descriptions of people. So they talk about, well, obviously the Canada gang is the worker bees for the Nazis, so they have to go out and do all the dirty work. And then the text also refers to it calls the people who are not sufficient enough to do work Mexican. That was something that I did not know before, and I found it pretty interesting that they used that terminology. The whole story it revolves around the train cars. So the shipping in and unloading of hundreds of thousands of Jews on these train cars. And they do come in with a little bit of food. I'm assuming it's mostly like a single apple to a family. Like, would be what it relates to. They're not coming in with gourmet dinners. And it does say that they have some jewelry and they also have some clothes with them. So just probably a small suitcase and a couple slices of bread is what I expected these people to show up with. I think that it is important to talk about this, and I like that he set up the stories to kind of go in a chronological order of how the people arrived at the camps and then where they went from there. So this would be how they arrived. There are a lot of other plays and other poems and short stories and other works of literature that do focus on the entrance of the Jews to the camp. So how they are shipped in like cattle, and when they arrive, they're either told to go to the left or to the right, and one is straight to death, and one is you're going to be put to work for your freedom that never really comes. Okay, I wanted to talk about thieves. So the Canada gang, or any of the men who are tasked with getting the belongings from the arriving people, are told not to steal jewelry or clothing or anything of real value, but they are allowed to take the food. So I did find that that was interesting, and it kind of ties into my next point, which is about morals. How can you say that someone is just, like, how can you say someone's allowed to steal one thing, but they're not allowed to steal another? Being a thief is being a thief. And morals, I wanted to talk about that because there are very few hints of morals throughout the story, but one that stood out to me in particular was when the man was speaking about telling the people who arrived on the train cars if they were gonna die right away or not. He said that it was better to just not tell them at all, be kind of vague about it. So I found that interesting. Also, another part that morals play in the work is that in the beginning of the story, or in the beginning of the time when people arrive at the camps, they still have like morals that were intact from outside of the camp. But then as the story progresses, we see that the morals slowly disappear. And that leads us into the animalistic tendencies. So, like I mentioned before, they're loaded into the train cars like cattle, just packed in there. Some got trampled to death, some were just suffocated because they were smashed too close to the wall. And we also see animalistic tendencies when we talk about the progression of the characters from beginning to end, even in this short story. So at the beginning of the story, they unload the train cars, they pick through, they try and find some little pieces of food or, something, some maybe like a water or something to drink. They're just trying to survive. But then by the end of the story, they're ripping apart mothers from their children with no hesitation, care in the world. They're not worried about where the mother goes, where the child goes. They're just worried about what's in the suitcase. If there's a snack or something, like anything they can get their hands on food-wise. They also lose their faith in each other a little bit. So they, instead of as a uniform group go into the train cars, they're just like everybody's fighting to get in. Now it does have a lot to do with the horrific circumstances that they're put under, but I think it's something that is pretty interesting to analyze, how quickly or how little it took just to like twist their minds up and to strip them of all concrete moral belief.